In September of 22, Brock and I traveled to beautiful Covington, Michigan, to see the property we had purchased unseen a few months before. Covington is a very small town in the western Upper Peninsula, just a few minutes from the line where the Eastern Time Zone changes to Central Time. We packed ourselves and our Anatolian Shepherd Great Pyrenees puppy into a rented box truck and drove out from Washington State for a 2-week vacation. When we arrived, we easily found the logging road that crosses the southeastern corner of our land. We pulled in and promptly made camp. The first thing we noticed, aside from the wild beauty of the area, was the mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes, but we bought land in the woods, so it was to be expected. After we settled in, we armed ourselves with a topographical map of the property, a plot map, a measuring wheel, and a chainsaw. Then we ventured out to see what we could see. What we saw was at once disappointing and promising. The land we purchased had been logged, so there were very few fir trees large enough to build a cabin with, or even to mill our own lumber. Most of what remained were birch trees and alders that were only a few inches thick. We did find some conifers, but those were too young to harvest for building materials. We also found a lot of water, and not the good kind, with fish in it. No, the water we found was swamp. There were places with just standing water that hadn't dried in the 5 months since the spring thaw. Other places were legitimate swamp with cattails and reeds. Still, we managed to walk through some of the property, cutting down saplings and branches that blocked our way. Eventually, we made our way to the highest spot, and here's where we saw the promise that the land provided. At the highest elevation in our property is a stand of maple trees. Most of these maples are mature, if not ancient. I grew up in southern Michigan and had grown very fond of the maple trees there. They provide abundant shade in the summer, spectacular color in the fall, and allow the sunlight through in winter. They also provide a delicious breakfast food and natural sweetener. Of course, I was not willing to cut down the maple trees, so we chose a spot that looked reasonably dry just below them and marked out the place where we wanted our cabin to sit. This would be our new home within the next few years. We contacted a couple of contractors about building a driveway, got a perk test on our soil. That was a no-go. We'll have a dry cabin. And headed back to Washington. The next summer, I went back to Michigan armed with a small chainsaw and a dream. Every day I walked into the property from the highway and worked a little more on cutting down trees to clear the way for the contractor to come in and prepare the site for building. At first, it was all I could do to just get one tiny tree down. I was terrified of getting hurt out there alone. I had no experience with a chainsaw and no teacher other than the pros who post on YouTube. Eventually, I was joined by my brother and youngest son. With my brother there, I gained more confidence and was able to cut down most of the trees in the area of my house. There was still plenty to do, but the few very large trees would require a professional with a bigger saw, better equipment, and more experience. Once that was done to the best of my ability, we started working our way down the planned driveway toward the logging road. Eventually, a swarm of hornets stopped us. 2023 was a bad year for ground nesting hornets. It was also the year I learned I'm allergic to bees. Anyway, the timing couldn't have been better because the next day the contractor arrived with his excavator to start grubbing the driveway. I have other videos showing the work on the driveway. Once the driveway was fully grubbed, the operator continued into my build site and began pulling up stumps and moving trees out of the way. That was a joyful sight to see, but it only lasted a few minutes. The excavator blew a water pump and had to be shut down just a few days before I had to return to Washington. That isn't the end of the story, though. The work continued after I left Michigan, and by the end of October I received word from the contractor. The job was done. I had a driveway and a clearing for my house. And here it is! From overgrown to open space. I turned 54 years old while working on that clearing last year. People tried to tell me I was too old to start doing such hard work. And sure, there was some work I couldn't do on my own. There was plenty that I could do. So if you're old like me, or even older but want to start homesteading, give it a try. Do as much as you can, and hire out the rest if possible. It's never too late to start.